If someone asked my family about what my beliefs are, they'd confidently answer that I'm a Muslim. The truth is, they have no idea that I'm an atheist. Hello everyone, it's me, Desert Emerald. In this video, I'll be talking about my personal experience as an ex-Muslim atheist living in a Muslim country. For context, I was born into a Muslim family and labeled as Muslim. I didn't have a choice in choosing my beliefs. They were all forced upon me, since children are easily prone to brainwashing, and religious people always tend to take advantage of that. Both my parents are extremely religious. Even when I was a kid and growing up, my father would always pressure me and my siblings to pray and would bring up the hadith where it talks about when a child reaches the age of 7, they should be taught how to pray, and by age 10, if they don't pray, they'll be hit by their parents as a form of discipline. It's honestly insane how many of us have put up with this abuse. Lifestyle-wise, I'd say I was more privileged than some of my peers, as my father financially spent lots on my school and sent me to a private school in a family where everyone would send their kids off to public school. Narcissistic parents in particular love to spend money on their kids and then blackmail them about how much they have spent on them in return for obedience. That is exactly my situation. My father was also impulsively abusive and would hit me a lot as a child, until age 14, even when I did nothing. He just had these bursts of anger that he would let out on me for some reason. Being a girl, I was always his target of abuse, since he couldn't target my mother anymore. Afterwards, he stopped being physical and just resorted to verbal abuse, and still does to this day. It's honestly insane how sensitive my nervous system has become of words, all due to the abuse. It's always on survival mode and it gets tiring. Now, as a girl, there were obviously expectations placed on me. My dad would always brainwash me with propaganda regarding the hijab and would pressure me to wear it, even when I was a kid. My mother would make me wear long skirts for school, despite me being underage. It was honestly insane how they sexualized my body at that age. I would always sneak and fold my skirt to make it shorter when I was at school, and when I came home, I'd unfold it to its original length because my family hates the sight of a woman's body. Around 7th grade, I began questioning Islam. I spent most of my time on this app called Quora, and read paragraphs by ex-Muslims, and I was so convinced by it all, as evidence was clearly shown. I left Islam and became a Christian for a week at that time. So I became a Christian because at that time I didn't know other religions existed. I thought by leaving Islam that meant I would be a Christian. I had no idea that atheism existed or other forms of belief, since my Muslim family narrowed my mind so much to believe that only Christianity exists when I was young, aside from Islam. I was praying to Jesus and all, acting like a Christian for a week. I then realized that I was talking to a wall, that no one heard my prayers, and it felt like I was making a fool of myself. I then had a long conversation with my religious cousins at that time, who brainwashed me with sugar-coated Quranic verses and told me that everything I read is wrong. And thus, I was brainwashed and returned back to Islam. In 8th grade, I consumed a lot of Muslim content on TikTok, especially emotional Islamic stories that touched my heart deeply. I became hyper-religious for some reason. In 9th grade, I wore the hijab and kept it on for 4 years. Funny thing, during 9th grade, my mental health was at its worst. I had multiple attempts to, if you know what I mean. I had a severe identity disorder and very bad OCD, where I would make wudu multiple times before a prayer or salah, and would recite a verse multiple times until I said it correctly because I was terrified of the devil. All of my friends at school stopped interacting with me during this period. They all talked about how I changed, was no longer fun to hang out with, was always isolating myself, always praying, do sunnah prayers, read Quran every day, and I even had a 300-day streak of reading the Quran all the time. There was this app where I would read the Quran on and it would calculate my streaks and how much I read Quran. I always make dua, do dhikr, and dress modestly, and you get it. Even if I became an atheist all those years back, my life would probably be worse since my parents would put even more pressure on me to dress modestly. And of course, who knows how much I would have to handle all those years being a closeted ex-Muslim. It would be too much. Looking back, I don't know what the hell went through my mind. My questioning period started when I was a senior in high school. I had lots of pressure on me during that year because I studied a lot. It was the last year of school, so obviously. And I was hoping for a good grade, which I also successfully got. One thing that bugged me a lot was how Allah didn't seem to care about my wishes. It felt like I was praying to a wall whenever I did salah, a similar feeling to what I experienced when I was a Christian. I thought that maybe if I studied Islam deeply, I'd get closer to God. It started off with me binge watching Muslim YouTubers like Ali Dawa. I used to like watching this guy a lot until I realized how misogynistic he was. Mind you, I had no idea Islam allowed men to have 4 wives. I only found out from Ali Dawa. It's all thanks to him I woke up to the true colors of Islam because he didn't sugarcoat anything. That is precisely why he is hated so much by the Muslim community. At first, I started making up excuses about the polygamy rule, trying to patch it up with the widow excuse or people in war or husbands dying, but all of it came to a dead end. There is no justification for a man being allowed to have 4 wives, but it is only justified through misogyny. Through there, I started doing a deeper dive into the misogynistic aspects of Islam. The ex-Muslim subreddit woke me up a lot, and also many other atheist YouTubers whom I watched, and a lot of other ex-Muslim YouTubers too. I realized from there on that all of the interpretations that Muslims love to throw at everyone is just sugarcoating of the raw violent verses. But the misogyny wasn't enough to make me leave Islam. Scientific miracles were one of the main reasons why I held onto Islam so deeply. But then I did research into those and realized that all of the so-called scientific miracles are fabricated. All of the scientific information in the Quran was either wrong, entirely false, or mythological, or it was stolen from other ancient societies like the ancient Egyptians, Greeks, Sumerian, Persians, Indians, and etc. Or they were mentioned in the Bible, Torah, or other religious scriptures before Islam. The conclusion finally woke me up. This research that I did on scientific miracles finally woke me up. From that day, I dissected the scientific hogwash. I realized that Islam is man-made, and therefore I declared myself an atheist. But despite me no longer fearing the devil, hell, or even God, I still live in an environment dictated by these beliefs where everyone else fears this nonsense. I would always have these arguments about Islam with my parents, and there were even times where I accidentally spat out that I'm an atheist to them. My mother would force me to apologize and pretend to be a Muslim for the sake of my survival. Because if I didn't pretend, I'd get kicked out, or disowned, or worse, killed. I kept everything hidden from my family. Even my religious cousins too, as I realized they're heavily brainwashed and are far from rescuing, so I didn't even tell them. However, I managed to wake up one of my cousins and help them become an atheist. I'm glad that I don't have to bear this burden alone, as I at least have some like-minded people in my family. But being an ex-Muslim woman still living in a Muslim household is exhausting. I'm always mentally exhausted, trying to prevent myself from lashing out at my parents or accidentally admitting that I am an atheist. It's tiring to deal with. One good thing that happened after I left Islam is that I took off my hijab immediately. My parents didn't like it, but I didn't care. I would never give up my freedom. However, my freedom is still limited as I am forced to dress up modestly by my parents. I can never dress creatively or express myself how I want. That is why I always find myself on social media doing exactly that. Because I want people to think and criticize systems that have oppressed us for so long and still do to this day. For now, this is simply my reality. I still have to hide a part of who I am. I still have to pretend, not because I want to, but because being honest about my beliefs could have consequences I'm not ready to face. It's a strange feeling to know who you are, yet not be able to live openly as that person. I didn't share my story because I expect everyone to agree with me. I know many people won't, and that's okay. My hope isn't to take anyone's faith away. My hope is much simpler than that one day no one has to live in fear because of what they believe or because of what they no longer believe. I hope for a world where women are treated as equals, where people are free to ask questions without being shamed, and where changing your mind isn't seen as a crime or a betrayal. A world where freedom of conscience isn't something people have to earn, but something everyone is born with. Until that day comes, this is the only way I can safely tell my story. Maybe one day, I won't have to hide behind a screen or a different name. But until then, this is my story. Thank you for listening.